The financial industry loves to talk about averages because on average, it's done quite well. But that doesn't mean that consumers actually do well. What's up, everybody, and welcome to a quick video that I want to talk about something that I think is very important. In the financial industry, you hear a lot about things like, the S&P 500 has averaged 8% over the last 20 years, or the mutual funds have averaged 9% over the last 30 years, or 6%. What I think is very important to understand when you look at rates of return is that just because something averages a certain rate of return does not mean that you actually get that rate of return. So there's really a big misconception of just because it's averaging a number, it doesn't mean you're actually going to end up with that. And I can give you some really easy examples. The financial industry loves to talk about averages because on average, it's done quite well. But that doesn't mean that consumers actually do well. The market's all about timing. And the older people get, the less they actually want to play the game of riding the wave up and down of the market. The ups and downs can really erode cash flow in retirement years. So just because something averages something doesn't mean you're actually going to get that rate of return. Let me give you an example. I used to have a colleague that would talk about how on average he and his wife would run 2 marathons a year. It's pretty good. But he didn't actually run any marathons. The truth is that his wife would run 4 marathons and he would run 0. Between the two, they would average 2 marathons a year. Doesn't mean he actually ran anything. So on average, it looked like he was doing all this activity, but for the family, the average was 2, but in reality, he ran 0 and his wife ran 4. Let me give you an example on financials and how that actually works with your money. Now, I want to give you a really easy example here. So let's say you start off with $100,000. And you go to the best financial advisor in town that says, look, I can do a really good job giving you a great rate of return. I can't guarantee it, but I want to show you how I can double your money. And let's say that he does it. Let's say that you get a 100% rate of return for that year. So what do you end up with? You end up with $200,000. Your money doubled. You have twice as much. If you doubled your money in a year, would you be happy? Yes, we all would. And the advisor says, look, I'm doing such a good job, keep your money with me. But we all know when you take more risk in the market with stocks and mutual funds and things like that, theoretically, your risk also goes up. On risk, when we talk about risk in the financial world, that really means potential for loss. So because your potential for gain goes up, your potential for loss also goes up. Let's say the next year he doesn't have as good of a year, and he actually gets you a negative 50%. How much money are you going to end up with? Back down to what you had. So you had 2 years in the market, riding the waves up, and then back down. So you make 100%, next year you make negative 50, and you end up with exactly the same amount of money as you started with. Now, what's your average rate of return? On average, let's say I take 100,000, or excuse me, 100%, and then I subtract 50. What do you end up with? 50%. Well, 50% over 2 years is what? 25%. Legally speaking, the advisor can say, look, I averaged 25% for the last 2 years. That doesn't mean the client actually got 25%. On average, yes, they did. But they didn't actually receive it. In fact, they started with 100 and then they ended up with 100. The true rate of return, or the actual rate of return, was 0. Yet financial companies and professionals, they talk about averages much more than actuals, because I think that the actual is actually is less attractive than the average. Now, there's a big difference when you're going Like if this is retirement years, and as you're accumulating your wealth, it doesn't matter as much whether the average versus the actual. Hopefully the account is going to be growing over time. But during distribution years in retirement, your sequence of returns can really erode the account value. And this is where we start talking about safe money withdrawal rates and how much can you actually take out if you expect to live 25 or 30 years. What kind of cash flow can you understand? Well, what kind of cash flow can you expect? And the first thing to understand is your cash flow really is dependent on what type of rate of return you're going to get if all of your money is still stuck in the market. So understanding how to position your assets so that you can minimize that opportunity for loss can greatly increase the cash flow that you can expect throughout retirement. For more information on this, check out your sequence of returns and safe money withdrawal rates. Enjoy.